Hello and welcome to another episode of Hats Off Games. Today we are going to be taking a look at a print and play game called Deep Space D-6. This actually was up on Kickstarter as well for a much more professional version. More cards, I think there's another ship, things like that. Well, right now there's another Kickstarter for an expansion for that, and you can also get that original game as well. I here just have the print and play version. This is specifically the Mint 10 version, so it can actually fit into an Altoids 10 or other 10 of this size. So it's a little different than some of the ones out there. But it's the same game as the one that's up on Kickstarter, which is ending in like 1 or 2 days from when this airs. So not a lot of time. So if you do like what you see here, then definitely check it out. But yeah, we're just going to go ahead and kind of take a look at the game and how it plays through. I have dramatically shortened the length of the game, and basically I've done that by taking these, basically these event cards, these hazard cards. And what these hazard cards basically are is the clock to the game. So once you get through all of those and clear everything that's a threat to you, then the game ends, unless you've been destroyed before that. So I just want to give you a taste. I'm really going to shorten the game down quite a bit. Real basic is that you have 6 crew member represented by these dice, and then each number on each die represents a specific unit, a crew member. So it's the Kickstarter actually comes with customized dice, but even with the print and play, it's really, you get used to it really easy, knowing what the numbers are. And I'll kind of explain what each of the units are as we use them, or as we roll them up. But what we do is we start the game here with our 6 crew. We've got our hull up to the maximum, which is 8, and then our shield up to 4. So essentially, any of these external threats, and these threats can be, raiders, for example, right here. There's other types of threats that will actually damage the ship itself, and all damage goes to the shield first, and otherwise stated on the card. Then it starts damaging your hull. Once you reach 0, your ship is explodes and it's done. There's also internal threats. Now these threats are going to really more affect your crew in different ways, but we'll take a look at those and when and if they do come up. So the ship is divided into separate sections. Each section is something that can only be activated when you roll the correct number or that correct crew symbol to be able to put them in there. There are ways to change the face of the die. That's one of the powers that are in here from the commander, but we'll go through those again as we play. So let's go ahead and actually get this started, because I've got everything set up. You pull 2 of your threat cards. So we're facing some raiders, and they come with a scouting ship. And when I go to the event portion where these guys get to actually activate, we'll go ahead and talk a little bit more about that. Yeah, so the first thing that we do, number 1, is we roll all the available crew dice. Okay, so now every time you roll a 6, basically that means your scanner has picked up something that could possibly be a threat. So that actually goes away and gets locked up into this space up here where your scanner section. And I'll explain more about how that affects, a little bit later, when that happens. So right now I've got a 2. A 2 represents the basically your weapons officer. So I'm just going to go ahead and place my 2 to the side there. So then I have a 3, which represents the medic. And then we've got 2 4s. So we have 2 of these crew types available to act in this round. And then we have also our engineer. So our weapons officer, basically they do damage to the external threats. Also they can be used for some of the internal threats, but basically they will shoot and give damage to our enemy. 3 medics, if you get anybody that's injured and they're in the infirmary, which will come up with some of the external and internal threats that happens, they can then bring somebody back by activating that particular unit. And we'll probably look at that. Now we also have 4, which is our science officers. they can repair our shield when it's damaged. And then 5 is the engineer, and the engineer can repair our hull if that becomes damaged. So right now, basically, I have no damage. So the scientists and the engineers, basically, there's nothing they can really do. There's no cards that would require that type of unit to resolve. So I'm just going to put them keeping the face up, because we always want to know who is who all the way through, even when you're done using them. So we're going to keep it face up and just get it off the board here in our active ready pool. Now, there's no one to heal, but the other thing that a medic can do is that they can actually get rid of one of these threats. So basically, they just spend the time to investigate, what the scan came up with and realize it's not a threat and we're okay, or found a way to avoid it. However thematically you want to make it so that somehow a medic is getting rid of a threat. So again, keeping them face up. Now, what we're left with, because we went ahead, I'm sorry, didn't really explain that very well. So what you do is you go ahead and you take that unit die and you basically activate them. So once you activate them, you're taking them off of the board. They're used. And then I just took this away because that's what they did. That was their action. And then down here, face up. So now we can see we just have our, I think they're tactical, but basically our weapons officer. Now, one weapons officer dedicated here can score 1 hit against one of your external threats. There's bonuses for putting more on there, and they're pretty significant bonuses. For each additional one you put on here, it's 2 extra. So if you put 2 weapons officers here, so you roll 2 2s and you put them down here, excuse me, your total damage is 3. This guy is just going to be 1. And then if for every next weapons officer you put down, that's an additional 2. All right, so I have 1 damage, and I'm going to go ahead and shoot at these raiders because they can do damage to us. The scouting ship augments the damage that the raiders do. So this is a damage track. All of your external threats are going to have anywhere from 1 to 4 basically points of damage, whole points that need to get destroyed before the external threat is taken care of. So the way it's kept track is that you start, you see in the upper left-hand corner of that card, is that we've got a 2. That number 2 represents the starting hit points. So that's why the 3 here is at a 3, the 2 is at a 2. We're going to target the raiders, hit them for 1. So basically what we do is we just slide them down the track. So anything that's damaged just goes down the track. It's a really simple, nice, clean, compact way to track damage as opposed to placing tokens or things like that. So I thought that's a really smart idea, and I really like that. So now they only have 1 hit point left, but they're still alive, still active. I take my die off the board. All right, so I've used all of my crew in one fashion or another, and that was step 3. We skipped step 2 because it's only activated once you get 3 of these in here, so maybe we'll see that later. Step 4 is we're going to go ahead and draw a new threat card, which are these little guys here. And now we got lucky and pulled the Don't Panic. So basically that means nothing happens. So I'm going to actually go ahead and discard that because I'd rather have some action, and then I'll draw again. So let's see here. So another Don't Panic. Now you can change difficulty of the game by pulling some of these out. So the less you have in there, the more difficult the game is. So that's one way to kind of change up your difficulty. Start with all of them until you get used to the game, and then you can progressively kind of knock these out. And that's kind of how you can compare your previous games to the current game. So not only is it I won loss, but you can kind of win at particular difficulty levels and then challenge yourself. So that's kind of cool. It's fun. So we pull out a bomber, and the bomber has a health or a whole points worth of 2. All right, so we're going to go ahead and place him down there. And then we go ahead and basically start that process over. So I'm just going to go through here and just kind of go through the motions. All right, so we've got 2 1s, which are commanders, which we haven't seen yet, which is nice. We have 3 5s. So we have no damage, so those guys we can't really use, but I'll show you how we're going to use them. Because we're going to use the power of the commander. The commander, basically what it can do is change any 1 die to any side. The other thing that it can do is you can use the commander and then re-roll all of the remaining dice that you haven't used. So they're pretty strong. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and take one of the 5s and turn that into a 2. So now he's a weapons officer, and my captain is done. This captain, he's going to do the same thing with one of the other 5s, and he'll bring that to a 2. There we go. And I did not roll any 6s, so there's no threats that came up. But now we've got everything set. I can't make any more changes. Engineer, he's not going to be able to do anything. The medic is not going to be able to do anything because I don't have any of the scanner threats up here. So I'm left with my 2 weapon officers. They're going to do a total damage of 3. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the bomber for 2. 1, 2, off the board, killed. And then my 3rd point of damage is going to go to the raiders. 1 down, and it's killed. So that's my crew round. So that's number 3. And now let's go ahead and draw the next threat card. Let's just kind of start rolling through here. So we got some more raiders, and they are at health of 2. And these guys ignore shields, so they're kind of a pretty big threat. And let's see if we go ahead and activate that threat. We're going to roll the threat die because now there is, a threat that needs to be rolled on. And I think I skipped it in the last turn. So we'll just ignore that and just keep on moving. But every round after you draw that card, after you use your crew, then what you're going to do is you're going to roll the die to see if any of the threats, the one you just drew or any of the previous ones, are going to be activated. You can tell how they're activated is if you roll the threat die and you roll a 1 or a 4, it'll activate this card. Some cards are 2 and a 5, some are 5 or a 4, 5, 6, and then they'll also be repeating. So sometimes you can roll a number and activate several threats. So let's go ahead and see if we roll a 1 or a 4, and we don't. So we lucked out. So the raiders don't attack us, or they missed, or whatever you might want to call it. And then we just gather our crew, and then we go ahead and roll all of our crew dice. So we'll just keep moving. All right, so I've got excellent, and then 2 scientists and 2 engineers, which they each can't do anything, no damage. I'm going to go ahead and send 3 points of damage to get rid of these raiders. And the scout ship can't directly do any damage to us. They just add bonus to the other ones. So now that I've assigned all my crew, the next thing I do is draw another threat card, which is an interceptor. Start with 3 health. And then on a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, they're going to hit me. So that's somewhat of a big threat. It's -1. I've got shields. Now, of course, we're playing a really short game, so there's no way they're going to destroy us by this time. But that happens a lot, getting destroyed. It's not an easy game. But again, we're just kind of going through examples here. So they went out, and now we're going to have to roll the threat die because we just pulled that new event. So 3, yep, so it hits, but it's going to hit my shield. The shield always takes the first damage unless otherwise specified, like that last external threat card that we had. All right, so we've made it through. So let's go ahead and get our crew back together and give them their jobs. So we did pick up 2 possible threats on our scanners. We've got 2 2 medics that are available to us. We have a science officer and a weapons officer. So again, science officer just goes away. Now we're going to use both of these medics because remember, they can help people in the infirmary, or they can get rid of these threats, the threat scanners, the little blips. And we have 1 person to fire, so they're going to be able to do 1 point of damage here. Okay. Now we draw an event, or one of these cards. Whew. So this is an external threat. It's an environmental threat. And basically, if I roll a 2, it's going to hit for 5. But then the card gets discarded. So there is no health. So basically, this stays until it actually happens. Excuse me. So we're just going to set it over here to the side because we can't do damage to it. It's just a storm that's going to come at some point. And so now we're going to go ahead and roll. So we got a 6. So we lucked out with the interceptor, and we lucked out with the solar winds. All right, so I'm thinking that that's probably enough to kind of get a good idea of how the game plays out. It's a solo game. I really enjoy it. Definitely go ahead and check out the Kickstarter. There's probably going to be 1 day left, so today's probably going to be the last day. So very late, and I apologize for that, but I just saw it on there, and it reminded me that I've had this kind of kicking around for a while and haven't played it for a few months. So wanted to play it again, and just kind of remembered, just how fun it is. So yeah, so thanks so much for tuning in to Hats Off Games. I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. In the meantime, just go ahead and put your comments down below. Tell me what you think. Any suggestions, recommendations. If you whatever's on your mind, really. So, all right, thanks again. You take care.